So, it's my first plant out of the year. Come and accompany me. I'm filming in the car because it's too windy. It's so windy. It's too windy to film outside. And all I'm going to do is plant a few onions. My onion planting disasters documented. My seeds never germinated, and from what I understand from a couple of comments I had, birds were plucking at the sort of little sprouts of the onions, thinking they were like green worms or something. So what I did was, you would have seen, I planted my onions on into little trays like that. And I've got another bigger tray here so that they've sprouted. So I'm going to plant them on. They don't look like worms anymore. As you'll have seen when I did a little intro into my garden, you might have seen the little onion bed. They look a lot taller, and I don't necessarily have to worry about the birds or protecting them. And you might have seen my little potato buckets. Two of them are normal. Well, actually, they're three. There's kind of an experiment. One is two of soil, but one has 4 potatoes in it. One has 2 potatoes in it, so I just want to see what the yield is like. And also, one out of those 3 buckets has got straw in it. And I've seen people plant potatoes in straw before, so I just want to see how it works in a bucket. I'm not sure I've seen it done in a bucket. I think I've seen it done in raised beds, so I just want to see how that works. I'm only going to do that one. I've got another bucket of potatoes, and what I use is, when I pot on, which I haven't had time to video properly, once I take these onions, for example, out of there, the soil that is still in there, or the compost that is still in there, I'll use that to fill my potato buckets. So I've got that soil in there, and I don't want to move the camera, but I have to. I've got all of that soil going to my potato buckets, and then I will add some additional nutrition. I'm not going to outtake that. Some additional nutrition. I've seen specific potato feed, and I've also seen fish and bone mix that I may use. Or I may use chicken pellets. I'll mix that in to that soil just to give it the potatoes a feed. Back to my onions. After I've planted these, I'm not going to plant them all, just the ones that have sprouted. I'll cover them with a bit of netting, just to keep them protected. This stuff lets the sunlight through, but it stops birds pecking at them. So that's my little task for the day. I can film that and mute it because this wind, like I say, is terrible. So let's crack on. 2-minute drive to the plot and plant the first things ever in my plot. Exciting. So there we are. You can probably hear the wind. You can see the wind in the trees out there. The other reason this is exciting is because I haven't been here for weeks. As you know, and I won't harp on about it, I wasn't allowed to have a greenhouse here. So I've spent a lot of time at home, basically planting and potting on and planting and potting on and planting and potting on at home rather than doing it here. So I haven't had to be here. The last time I was here, I reset out the greenhouse, not the green, reset out the plot with paving slabs, and I just left my cover over, which is still over now. So we'll see what that looks like after it's almost a month, I think. So hopefully this won't be too much work. So here's me up at the end here. Stuff's changed. Look, like this. There's always been strawberries next door, and it looks like he's planted some potatoes. Either has, I assume he has, or he's planted some potatoes. This polytunnel is new. My neighbour's put his polytunnel up. This is me with my black weed suppressant down, which I've kept down, which I'm going to take up. And then, like I said before, you might have heard me say, my neighbour is planted through his weed suppressant. The last time I came here, there was no, I don't know if it's the same batch or not, but it wasn't down and there was nothing planted here, so he's obviously planted his onions through his weed suppressant, which actually looks pretty awesome. I'm going to plant mine in my, I'm not going to harp on about it, the space where I was going to put my greenhouse, which is just this corner of the plot. And I've been toying with what to put here. At one point I was going to put corn here, which I've got some, but I don't know how it's going to survive. And then at another point I was going to put potatoes here, but I'm not sure about planting potatoes outside, just because of how they spread, and I'm a little bit worried about pests, because it's hard enough in buckets. So I might just put my potatoes in buckets anyway. I've got a task. I've come to plant some onions. Let's do that. I can only plant like 5 in terms of the ones that have sprouted. Yeah. But at least I'm going to get something in the ground. Let's have a quick look at what the soil looks like. And I only dug this over recently, and I'm not going to harp on about it. I found out I couldn't have a greenhouse. I only dug it over then. Before, this bit was grass. The rest of the plot was in much better conditions than this. So this is actually the worst part, because I'm not going to harp on about it, but I was going to put my greenhouse here, so it was going to be grass. And I left it as grass. So this actually isn't looking too bad. A few weeds, which I'll dig out, and I've bung a few onions in the ground here, and I'll leave the rest of the weed suppression down for a bit longer, I think. I'll bring my little spade to get these weeds out, I hope so, and just plant here and put my little thingy-me-bob over, and away you go. I didn't realise the wind blew my tarpaulin into my camera and turned over turned the camera over while I was weeding there. But that is the easiest bit of weeding I've done in a little while. Weed piles. And obviously, as you know, when weeding, try and get as much of the root out as possible. Which actually has been really easy because of you can tell by the colour of these that they obviously haven't had much sunlight, so they're not very strong plants and not very strong roots. So that was actually really simple. I might just dig those last couple out before I crack on, but this is what, in about 10 minutes after a month or so, this is what we look like. So I may have mentioned before, the reason I'm not planting through this this membrane is because when it gets really hot, it's going to make the soil really hot and kind of kill the soil, like the organisms and stuff and the worms and all the stuff like that is going to get too hot for them with this down. So as I plant, I'm going to take this up. So I'm only going to take up a little section to plant these couple of onions that I'm planting, and I'll leave the rest down. But as I plant, I'll take it up, and then hopefully by June it will be gone. So July and August I'll have no membrane and I'll have to weed. Yes, I'll have to do a bit of weeding between crops, but it will have done its job and it will disappear, and then it will come back for the winter period. Maybe I found the answer. Something's going right for a change. Anywho. Well, as you can see, doing that, they develop a half decent root system. So, one, they're more likely to carry on and survive, and also they're more difficult for the birds to pull out of the ground once they've established themselves. And that was definitely more exciting for me than it was for you. But I just wanted to get something in the ground. So you can probably see my little onions planted there. Let's stick it out of the way. I've only planted 2 rows, like 10 onions or something. 10, 12 onions. But I just needed to come down here and do something, if I'm honest with you. The rest of these guys I'm going to leave in here to sprout, and once they've sprouted I'll start bringing bits down. And as I was saying, you might not have noticed that this bit was cordoned off, but this is a pallet down here. I don't know if you can see, that's been stuck in the ground, and what I'm going to do is plant flowers in those, and this actually is what borders my plot all the way around. So these, you can't see because of the grass, but these pallets border my plot right the way around. So I'll be planting, some I'll plant herbs in, and some I'll plant flowers in, just to make sure that the bits and pieces I've grown have enough bees around them for pollination. And with that said, thanks for coming along for my first ever allotment plot planting session. Magic carpet. So one of the rules here is not to step on other people's plots, so I never do that. I'll have a nose around. As I showed you before, there's staircase and stuff like that, and I'm not sure what's going to go up there. But if anyone can tell me, and I'll find out when I see him, what on earth this is. If anyone can tell me, I'm not going to touch it because it's not mine. Look at that, for a piece of modern engineering. What on earth is that? Oh, it's got a door on the side there. Look, looks like you can I don't know, thermometer? Is that? Yeah. So it's some sort of smoke. It can't be a barbecue, surely. But it looks like an awesome bit of kit. It's got I don't know how any of this works. One day I'll make something clever like this, I'll tell you. What an awesome bit of kit. If anyone can guess what that is, I don't know what the prize will be, but there'll be a prize. I'm going to find out and I'll let you know.